The future's so bright, I gotta wear shades. This week, the James Webb Telescope photographed a star popping out of a black hole. And that's impossible because nothing can escape the gravity well of a dark hole. So how did this happen? Newer physics minds have come up with that gravity is not a force. There's no invisible thing sucking and pulling on matter, energy, space, and time. Gravity is a direction, apparently. So if it's not a force and it's a direction, physicists should be able to figure out an angle of attack against this direction and be able to navigate against it, like tacking against the wind in a sailboat. And I think that's how simple the physics will be of how to disregard gravity. And it's probably part of the technology of UFOs. An analogy for this would be if gravity is a direction rather than a force. When the wind blows on you, you could say, it's a force pushing on me and it's invisible. And we can't see what's causing it. I think gravity will turn out to be that simple, and how silly we will look in the future, the same as the Greeks used to believe that a god was driving a chariot across the sky and the sun was the burning wheel. And at nighttime he would land the thing. We're not in the hands of geniuses, and we're being subjugated by beings whose IQs are 2,500 and 1.2 million. So what chance do we have? DNA is a chemistry that was invented by probably the upper group. And it's quite brilliant. You can put it anywhere and it adapts to the local conditions, and life force can enter into it and play the game of being alive. I'm going to quickly cover some of the races. I've just started a new direction with my videos, which is I guess all-encompassing. Supposedly, there are several races here taking advantage of the natural resources of planet Earth, including the human race, and as an export product. And it's best that we don't know that, because we've been able to come up with the atomic bomb, which would be a good attention-getting method. There's a movie, I think it's Australian, and at nighttime the local guys are out drunk killing kangaroos for no reason, and the hero's out there, and he takes his rifle and stands behind a dead kangaroo and starts shooting back. So that would be the equivalent of us nuking the alien facilities. So they apparently started with, this will go to the the Anunnaki first, which are a human-looking group with incredibly long lifetimes of 20,000 years, 100,000 years supposedly. And what one has to suspend belief in is they're supposed to be a royal family. And royalty is based on having the same DNA as your progenitor. So to talk about the Anunnaki, we have to believe that their political system is based on royalty, and that members of a royal family are running the business of planet Earth and have done so for hundreds of thousands of years. And that one of the problem with planet Earth is that 80% of the atmosphere is nitrogen. And apparently that's rare. You need an animal that can live in 80% nitrogen. So they have been manipulating the local stock, trying to come up with a slave to do the mining. And there's several iterations of that. And they had to make it more and more intelligent to be able to follow orders and understand what was going on, but they didn't want to make it too intelligent because it would realize it was being taken advantage of. And how the current situation came about is one of the rogue geneticists, one of the female super geneticists of this royal family, added some of their DNA to the human DNA and came up with us. So look what I've done. This thing works. It's great. But it was a little too intelligent to take orders. So it was thrown out of the Garden of Eden. Is it like this one's broken? And there are the descendants of Adam and Eve, and the descendants of the previous model are called the children of the animals in the esoteric schools. And from the outside, you can't tell them apart. So that's one story. Another story is the reptilians, undefeatable in war. They've been causing trouble, according to their story, in this section of the galaxy for hundreds of thousands, if not millions of years. And their thing is dominance, and they eat flesh. They're flesh eaters. And we don't see them. They're underground here. And 1% of the children from every country in the world are disappearing. And I think that's a tax. And that they're being fed to the reptilian grouping that's here, and there's somewhere, I think, between 20,000 and 200,000 of them. I did the tonnage and meat once. It wasn't a fun exercise. So why are they here? It's not clear why they are here. Their political system is based on, they have a queen who rules the entire empire. So to go with that, we have to go with the concept of empire, which is a human concept, or we got it from them. And most systems or beings that have a queen have one queen and a bunch of drones. But these drones are as big as humans or bigger, will require feeding and housing. That's a lot of energy going to waste if you just have one person birthing all of the babies. So in our history, we have the story of Dionysus, the god Dionysus, conquering a lot of the Middle East. And if you very carefully dig into the Dionysian story, it was actually the female reptilians who were the army, because they're bigger and meaner and tougher, and some of them have wings. And this is written about in history, but let's just put that over there and look at Dionysus, the party god of wine. And one was historically not allowed to make images of the reptilians. And you won't see much of that. The male reptilians were portrayed in the Renaissance as the little satyrs, the little guys with the hairy legs and the cloven hooves and the little tiny whores and their little tiny horns. They're always with the whores, drinking. Harmless kind of looking. In doing all my research, I ran across a museum in Greece, and there was a small temple there, which is completely flattened and buried. And what they've done is they built a museum beside the ruin, and they very carefully dug up the ruin and put everything in the museum. And one of the things they had was a fresco of typical Greek, I guess alabaster fresco in full color. And at the end of it, there's what looks like a dark hallway. So if you had a room here and the light was shining on that, and over there there's a hallway going to some other places, and it looks black. But if you stare at it for a long time, your eyes will adjust. And what it was a painting of a reptilian sitting in a chair, looking like a billionaire, like sort of arrogantly super confident. And the reptilian was dark green on a black background, so you wouldn't notice it unless you looked at it for quite a while. And it was, as they're depicted, it was scaly, had a fairly flat face. It wasn't like it had a big mouth to bite with. And slightly bigger than a human being, maybe 6'7"-ish. And that's the only clear representation I've seen. So I think their deal is they are manufacturing humans for sale off planet for slaves and war. And the phrase that I came up with, they're looking for an intelligent, disposable, biological, which is us. We're intelligent, we're biological, and we're disposable. Now, the people who work for them are the Chetu, or the small grays. And they were originally stone cutters. They're the people who built the pyramid and the other megaliths, and became the literature that created the stonemasons and the masons. I don't know if there's any Chetu directly involved with the masons, but it's tradition, the same way we have the Bible. But the apostles aren't here anymore. So back to left over from the Anunnaki is this ability by the Shatu to pick just the right pairing of DNA to produce the lower level human slave. And that's why they creep around at night looking for people, and I believe they take either the cloning materials or sperm and egg to make cloned humans for sale. And the reason they stick a tracker in somebody is so they can come back and get more. And not to disparage those who wrote books about being abducted, but none of those people appear to be all that bright. They've done nothing else but talk about that. And I think this is the reason for the 50-50 split in humanity between those who want to move forward and those who don't. So we have the Anunnaki, the reptilians, the Shetu, the Greys. Fourth race is something I just found out about from Robert Morningsky, whose video is still up on YouTube, that explains this whole thing of this arm of the galaxy is just one of many arms of this galaxy, and we're just in this area, and we're even at the top of that area. It's supposed to be, this is Sector 9. And his story is the reptilians were going in a direction towards out on the arm and ran into the Anunnaki. And after millions of years of fighting, the reptilian queen now knows it's better to negotiate and tax than to go to war, and nobody ever wins war. So they made a deal with the Anunnaki that the Anunnaki would pay a tax to them for freedom to operate. And the Anunnaki, in moving out further down the arm, ran into the fourth race, which is, I don't have their name today, I'll have it tomorrow. But they're like large wolves or werewolves. They also consume their victims, they're warlike. And the reptilian queen talked to them and said it's actually counterproductive to eat your victims in a war. You need to enslave them and make them produce products. And for this information, you will please give me a percentage and we'll leave you alone. And that's the setup, as far as I know today. And I noticed in the past few weeks on YouTube, there's been videos, probably by the same guy, about people seeing large dog or wolf-like upright animals in the woods that are howling and stinking and taking down the deer. This is not Bigfoot, this is something else. So this may be the gentle infusion of knowledge of this into the zeitgeist. Only data I have on them is they're 12 times as strong as a human being. Hard to kill, it can take several bullets. Keep on, it takes a licking and keeps on ticking. So interesting, although with all the cameras around today and all the military surveillance by every country on every level, no one has seen an 8-foot tall reptilian or 12-foot tall Anunnaki, or a gray, or the wolf creature. Maybe this is why we have the werewolf legends, I don't know. Now, if all this is true and is just ephemeral in the background, do we have a cadre of human beings working with these people? Because when you see how big this is, it's basically hopeless for one person or a group of people to do anything about it. The only hole in this is the DNA that was added to the cloned slave humans was royal DNA, and from right at the top of the chain. So the humans who have that have a right of ownership over planet Earth, as that royal family did and does. And if 51% of us were to know that and declare that we're now the owners, the rest of them would have to leave. So this is the needed referendum. Now, above that is a galaxy is one of a ridiculous amount of galaxies. And according to another school of higher consciousness, a galaxy is a game that was created by a conscious being with a lot of power. And when you go through that technology, you find that the being will create a game, run the game till they're tired of it, and throw it away and start a new game. Which on that scale is where all the galaxies are coming from and have come from. These are discarded games that are just thrown away. Yeah, try something else. Which is why the universe is expanding, or would have a direction, because you have to throw it away. The reason one can do this, if you are that being, is the space that this stuff is happening in is imaginary. This is called a viewpoint of that. Your viewpoint is here. You go, how about this idea that there's something out there that's not here? But this is a postulate, it's an idea, it's not real. So all of these galaxies are visible in this space. Let's say it's a 12-dimensional space. Other things, which I will cover the other dimensions later. That makes sense of that. And that whole ball of galaxies is a game created for people to play in. And as I keep saying, for an immortal, all-powerful being, the game would have to be infinite in size and eternal in length, and have a lot of content. So I've seen a diagram from a higher school where the universe that we find ourselves within is one of a grouping of 12 to 24 in a local little bubble like a mushroom cap. And around that are many, many other mushroom caps with many, usually 12 or 24 different universes. And this whole thing is moving through something, and the length of it is 105 to the 33rd power, which is 105 with 33 zeros behind it, which is the timeline of this grouping of games. And above that, and for those who are religious, in these schools and my videos, I'm not saying there isn't a God above all of that. I said before, if people who really knew who God was, they wouldn't mess around. So that thing that I've just discussed was created by that God with a whim, like this would be a cool idea. And there it is. The way of handling this stuff and learning about it is by using mathematics. And the key we've been given is the phrase, as above, so below. So the pattern from the entire universe that we're dealing with down to subatomic particles that we've just recently become aware of, the quarks and things like that, the rules are the same. They're just different scales, and the scale is usually 1,000,000 times, which is the reason for the metric system, because if you have the figure of 1,000,000, you can discover things like it's a 1,000,000 times the radius of the Earth to the Sun. Yeah, how could that be? The solar system rotates around Sirius, which is, and that distance is 1,000,000 times the radius of the Sun. How can that be? There's a man named RODNEY, COLIN, and I'll make a chart of this and make a video. He has everything scaled out from the life of electrons up to galaxies. And everything works out to be the same laws. And Nassim Haramein, physicist, did a paper on this, took it to the physics conference, and they actually threw him out and said, "You're an idiot, get out of here." Next year they asked him to come back and said, "Can you help us with the math, because what you said turned out to be true." And he has a line in this real 3D universe where everything lines up according to these laws. And there are slight variations on each side of the line. He says there's things going on we don't know about yet. So the current game of being a wage slave, paying income tax, sitting in a cubicle with a computer, is not the game that was decided to be played in this universe. It's what it has come down to after quadrillions of years of gameplay, and one of the reasons given is what we have now is the sum total of every time something wasn't done about something that should have had something done about it. Someone else will do it. I'm only me. What can I do? I'm wearing this because my eyes hurt today. I've been burning it out 18 hours a day on the computer, trying to capture my old research. The clues to this are available all over the world. You can get them in books from Amazon. You can learn how to read hieroglyphics, which isn't that hard actually. I started to do that. I went, wow, I can actually see what's here. But how many of us have tried to do that? We just look at it and go, it's a language with an alphabet. And the Egyptians spent probably hundreds of thousands of hours carving that stuff into stones because they thought it was important. And I just discovered something called catastrophism, which is about catastrophes that keep happening to the earth and wiping out civilization every 10,000 years, which is why we have no history. Which leads me to, we have one of those coming up in the next 2 years, and I was thinking, why, if these people are taking advantage of us and the planet, would they stay here when the place gets blown up every 10,000 years? The longest figure I have for alien occupation here is 72 million years. So the cyclic disasters happen 7,000 times. But if they take everything off the planet, if they take the meat off the planet, and they've been taking off gold and minerals, and according to another source, the good drugs like heroin, opium, cocaine, Jack Daniels, and selling it to human hordes on other planets. When that happens, the gods return and put civilization back together. And since we're looking at a big CME mini and solar nova happening, it would behoove us to put up a shield that's electromagnetically powered to counteract this, and it could be fed by microwave from the surface of the Earth. And this thing could do double duty as a asteroid zapper, or there could be big parabolic dishes up there floating around that could be focused at an incoming asteroid. And this is the level of technology that we are probably just barely able to do. And we should get on that right away. And I'll be putting up the designs for those in the next few videos. Instead of spending all that money on nuclear arms to defeat communism, which is the children of the animals idea, how to run a place.